And I'm not sure if we can do the slides. So I think, Noel, you can start by the first slide. And yeah, so mainly we will tell you today about the establishment of an umbrella organization. My name is Ines Moers, and with me is Clemens. And
Hi, Clemens. Hi.
And Clemens and I have thought of just presenting together because we're very similar and very different at the same time. And Clemens, you're better at the history work, so you will start, right?
I'm a little bit older. So we decided that Ines will answer the first question for Germany, and then I will follow with the Austrian situation.
Because the Austrians can do different overviews. In Germany, we started our umbrella organization in 1982. You've seen at the first slide that we, the Bundesarbeitsgemeinschaft Schuldnerberatung, a very long term, which basically means nationwide network of debt advisors. We started in 1986, which was the time where debt advice was developed in Germany and had started already, but the people doing debt advice didn't really know how to communicate with each other. So it was basically a network of practitioners. There were lots of political changes, so starting the insolvency law in 1999, which made big changes to our network. But the main idea of our network was that we didn't want competition to come up. We wanted to work together, and we wanted to form a network that politics and publics and everyone can address to. One of the main goals in the beginning was to give people looking for help the chance to find addresses on where good debt advice could be found. And that's one topic that we still do today. Today, we still have a website where you can go and you can ask where is a good debt advice center, and you find all the debt advice centers that are members in our association. And therefore, it's like a sort of a quality standard that we could set, and that the clients know where to go to. Yes, so as I said, there was a big thing was that we wanted to work together. We wanted the welfare associations to work together. So if it was Caritas, Diakonie, Red Cross, everyone that's involved in debt advice, we wanted them to work together as well. So when it started, and it's still going on today, there's always this difference between what do the employees, the ones that offer debt advice, what do they want? And what do the debt advisors, the people working in debt advice, what's their needs and what do they want to communicate? And the clients, what's important for the clients? And I guess that was and is still not the biggest question for how to start an umbrella organization. What is the topic? What is your goal when you want to start an umbrella organization? Who do you want to support? And we answered that question for us in our umbrella organization, that we wanted to see the signs that come up for the practitioners, and that we want to be a network and everyone has the possibility to tell their opinion and to say to have different views on the topic of debt advice. But we didn't want to say like, oh, this one welfare topic, we all have to have the same opinion. We see ourselves as a network with different opinion, with different practitioners, and that from our perspective as practitioners, we want to go and see what politics do. That's a bit different in Austria, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Thank you, Ines. In Austria, various social institutions were already dealing with the issue of debt in the 1970s. At that time, there was no formal and legal procedure for debt settlement. In several provinces, there were already pioneers in debt counseling, and over the time, the cooperation among all these institutions was expanded. It became increasingly clear that the coordinated and joint approach was needed to achieve the big goal. The big goal was the introduction of an insolvency code for private individuals. So the umbrella organization, our umbrella organization, was founded in 1992. At that time, it was based in the Upper Austrian Debt Counseling Center. At that time, the umbrella organization consisted of just one person who could use a desk and infrastructure in the Upper Austrian Debt Counseling Center. The work of the umbrella organization was supported by the common goal, as I mentioned before, and the innovative strength of practitioners from all over Austria. Although the field of debt counseling consists, the same in these days, of many individual organizations, it was possible to create a clear and manageable structure from which we still benefit today. All state-recognized debt counseling centers, there are 10 in Austria, are linked under the umbrella organization, and there is also only one state-recognized counseling center in each province. So the only exception is Upper Austria, where there are 2 such organizations. With a lot of expertise and patience, the big goal was finally achieved, and the private bankruptcy was introduced in Austria in 1995. Our umbrella organization was founded in 1992 as a non-profit association. As the turnover grew, it was decided in 2002 to adopt the legal form of a limited liability company in order to limit the personal liability for the acting persons. With the introduction of the private bankruptcy, the umbrella organization was also immediately given a key role. This leads us directly to the next central question, and I would like to have the second slide. Thank you. As the umbrella organization, we receive basic funding from the Federal Ministry of Social Affairs. This year, for the first time, this is done on the basis of a 3-year contract. This funding is increasing in the first 3 years and will be around 18% of our budget in 2025. With this amount, of course, we mainly cover personal costs, but also rent for our office and costs for the technical infrastructure can also be partly covered. Before we received the basic funding, we were only funded yearly for individual projects, which often made planning difficult. An essential part for this basic funding is the organization of training courses for debt counselors and for people working in the social sector. We also receive funding from the Ministry of Justice to coordinate the quality management of the debt advice centers and to generate the Austria-wide statistics on the topic of over-indebtedness, debt settlement, and the work of debt counseling centers. This rather small amount represents about 2% of our budget. Since 2022, we receive an annual donation from the Austrian National Bank. With these funds, we can address the topic of financial education. This amount represents around 7% of our annual budget. In addition to our tasks as an umbrella organization, we are also very much involved in handling private bankruptcies. In about 30% of private bankruptcies, in the so-called repayment procedure, we act as the settlement agency for the repayment period. This is usually 3 years, sometimes 5 years. We take the payments from the debtors and forward the money to the creditors. For this, we receive a fee of 15 euros per month and file. At present, we are in charge of about 6,500 files, which provides us with regular income. This accounts for about 73% of our budget. Although we operate as a business enterprise in the legal form of a limited liability company, all profits remain in the company. In this way, we drive projects forward and help finance our activities as an umbrella organization. All this is done in the spirit of our mission to reduce over-indebtedness among the population and to improve the situation of over-indebted people and those affected by poverty in society. We currently employ 22 people, about half work in the umbrella organization, and the other half are involved in handling the private bankruptcies. We use about 55% of our working hours to handle private bankruptcies, 10% are spent on management tasks, 10% for public relations, and 10% for projects, scientific findings, and statistics. Also, about 10% are used for IT support and office support. Other smaller tasks are quality management, for example. Our total budget is about 1.6 million euros per year. So I hand over to Ines for the next question.
And now you see different sides of the same picture. There's 10 debt advice centers in Austria. And what was it, 1.6 million budget for the umbrella organization?
Yeah.
In Germany, there is about 1,400 debt advice centers, and we have a budget of about 300,000 euros per year as an umbrella organization. So it's the complete opposite. We have a lot more debt advisors and debt advice companies, but our budget is a lot lower. We have, depending on how you calculate, but we have between 4 and 6 people working in our umbrella organization in the office. Even though we don't have a real office in Berlin anymore, we work from all over Germany, and we do most of our work on MS Teams and all the digital structures. But the main thing is that we don't get state funded as the Austrians do. Most of our money is from company funds and company equity. And we have 3 big pillars on where we get our money from. One is membership fees from our about 460 members. So we are a members association, and you can become a member if you are a debt advisor or if you are a social debt advisor, so somebody that does not take money from the clients. You can apply for the membership, and then you pay a yearly fee, which is something between 100 and 250 euros. We do not only make money from the membership fees, but also a little bit from advertising for our job market. So we, as an umbrella organization, have a job market for debt advisors on our website. And if you want to advertise there, you pay a small amount, like 100 euros, and that's something that we make money out of. But most of the budget comes from the membership fees in that pillar. The other pillar is that we sell a journal. We have a journal that we sell to our members and to 600 debt advice centers in Germany that are not our member. We sell this journal for 100 euros a year. That's 4 magazines each year. You get it in a printed in a printed version and in a digital version. And we sell adverts there as well. So and adverts can be companies that want to sell software for debt advisors, for example, or that offer training courses for debt advisors. Sometimes it's also the other side, so the debtors that say, hey, we have a new support hotline, and if you as a debt advisor need special advice, you can call us, and for those adverts, we get money sometimes as well, and from selling the journal, of course. So it's subscriptions and advertisements. And that's the third pillar. So the membership fees, selling the journal, and producing the journal, which is our task. And the third pillar is the trainings and events, just as Clemens said. That's exactly where we work in the same field. The Austrians train new debt advisors as well. We only train people that are already in the job. So once you finished your university degree and once you got a job in debt advice, you can book courses. Most of it is online these days. You can book courses and you can get trainings for debt advisors. And we have one big conference each year, and this big conference this year, we got a bit of funding from the German state. So we had 520 people participating at the conference. And that conference is the part where you get the idea of what's politically discussed, which topics are important to the practitioners right now. So that is the event for networking every year. But as you see, those 3 pillars, they are not based on state funding or on funding from banks or anything. And that was how we worked for about 35 years. So it was mainly we had to sell something and the debt advisors bought us from us, which meant that most of the time we were about to get indebted as well, because the debt advisors usually don't have much money. So our prices were really small so that we could sell it to the debt advisors at all, because they get public funding, the debt advice companies. Since 2017, so for about 5 to 6 years, we get some funding from the German government as well. But that's always project funding, and it's sometimes 1 year, sometimes it's up to 3 years. So that depends, and that's something that we are really not happy. So if you think about an umbrella organization in your country, we would, from our experience, suggest that you should try to get money that's stable and there, and best of all would be if it's state funded, and it's set without an expiration date. So without saying, but only 1 year or only 2 years, but that you can get your employees, you can get contracts, and you can buy software and keep it and stuff. So when it comes to financing, yes, there is a different way. As I just said, you can sell stuff as well, and you can just do a business with the umbrella organization. But that is very often very insecure, and it's a lot harder to find the time to agree on political status and political statements for the government. Which brings us to the next slide. And the next slide is, what are the current tasks of our umbrella organization? I said how we finance, and that's basically what our tasks are as well. We produce the magazine, we produce a newsletter, we produce everything where it comes, where we have the possibility to form the network between the debt advisors. And what's also very important is we not only want the debt advisors to come together and to communicate with each other, but we also want to form a network with other umbrella organizations like the Austrians, and other welfare organizations as well. So for us, it's always very important that we bring the topic of debt advice in other fields of social work. So we try to talk to the debtors, we try to talk to banks, we try to talk to scientific organizations, and that is another task or another area of work that we put our time in. But as I said, most of the time is what we do to finance and to get financing and to bring us together and to form a platform for the debt advisors. Clemens.
Yeah, in the previous chapter, I already mentioned some of our tasks for which we receive funding. In the field of education management, we organize about 15 to 20 seminars a year with about 300 participants. The content covers all relevant aspects of debt counseling. There are legal seminars on insolvency law or family law. We also offer seminars on specific target groups, for example, migrants or addicts. But we also try to strengthen other skills, for example, on the topic of presentation and illustration or voice and speech training for speakers. We also offer seminars for employees from other social institutions so that they can learn the essential points in dealing with over-indebted people. We coordinate the quality management throughout Austria. The existence of such a quality management system is an important factor for debt counseling centers to be publicly financed. For more than 20 years, the 10 Austrian debt advice centers have been developing common quality standards. Since 2012, the advice centers have been audited according to the internationally recognized ISO 9001 certification. These quality audits are carried out annually by external certification agencies, and conformity with the standards is checked. As the umbrella organization, we have our own quality management system that regulates our core areas. In the area of statistics, we cover all state-recognized debt counseling centers with all persons employed and all counseling carried out. In this way, we managed to give a precise overview of the topics of over-indebtedness, debt settlement, and the work of the debt counseling centers. Every year, we publish the over-indebtedness report, which always attracts a lot of media attention. As a service for the debt counseling centers, we summarize the main results of insolvency and counseling activities on a quarterly basis. This is an essential basis for development and steering of our work. As the umbrella organization, we are the spokesperson for the media, the public, ministries, and politics. We have the clear mandate of all debt counseling centers to represent the issue of debt and over-indebtedness to all these institutions. One of the success factors is that we act as a valued and recognized organization. As a service for the debt counseling centers, we organize and coordinate 4 Austria-wide working groups that deal with the topics of law, financial education, quality management, and IT. We work in a network in all relevant areas because with this cooperation, we can use many synergies and boost innovation. Again and again, we launch innovative social projects that fit the content of our work and our mission. One of these are the reference budgets. Maybe you know the reference budgets. The reference budgets show the necessary monthly household expenditures for 7 different household types. They serve as a guide in debt counseling and in the discussion of socio-political measures. We first developed the reference budgets for Austria in 2009 and have updated them annually since then. The expenditure items contained in reference budgets are intended to show what is at least needed for life if modest social participation is to be ensured. The purpose of drawing up reference budgets is to calculate the actual costs of a certain basic standard of living and enables him or her to participate in social life. So it's not a question of calculating how much money is needed just to survive. Reference budgets will thus become an important tool not only for combating poverty and over-indebtedness, but also for preventing social exclusion and reducing social inequality. So we can go to the next slide. Question number 4, where in the overall political system is our umbrella organization present? As the umbrella organization of debt counseling centers, we are mentioned in the insolvency code. We have the task of monitoring the state recognition of debt counseling centers and of checking compliance with the criteria on an ongoing basis. Also, if an institution applies for state recognition as a debt counseling center, we have the right to comment. Furthermore, the insolvency code states that all debt counseling centers must submit statistical material to us so that we can evaluate it. In the legislative process, we are invited to comment on areas of law that affect our sector. The Ministry of Justice has expert commissions on insolvency law and execution law. We are represented with a permanent chair in both working groups. Since various aspects are often discussed at a very academic level in these discussion groups, we can contribute a very valuable perspective from a practical point of view here. At the national and international level, we repeatedly invited to publish papers, give lectures, and hold workshops. An international comparison also shows that Austria has a respectable system of debt counseling. We are happy when we can spread our thoughts and approaches beyond our borders. We also address issues that are not directly related to debt and debt counseling. The social structure of our society is very important to us. We are concerned about social solidarity, about the basic subsistence of all people. This is why we are also involved in issues such as poverty, child poverty, equality, and participation. Based on our work with people in existential difficulties, we have a lot of experience here and can give a voice to those who are often not heard. So
that was the motivation anyways, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To give a voice to those
Yeah.
that are often not heard. And that was how we started, and that's how we both work today. And from many of the points that you just mentioned, where in the overall political system you work, it's very similar to what we do, except for the fact that you have a clear mandate and it's set in many of the legislative processes. So in the law itself, you are mentioned, when I understood it correct.
Yeah.
Whereas we aren't. We work from the voluntary agreement of our members. So very often there is a legislative process, or there is something happening in politics, and that's when our members say that topic is important for debt advisors as well, or there is an aspect from debt advice that we can contribute, and that's why we want to say something. But they do it voluntarily, and very often as an umbrella organization, we are just the ones that spread the news then. So we don't have a lawyer, we don't have people that can help us write very long statements, but very often it's our members that help us write these opinions and give them, for example, to politics or to media. And that clear mandate, therefore, is different as well, because very often we have to rely on the voluntary ambition of our members. We are not in the legislative process, but we are mentioned in the lobby register. So the German Bundestag, the German government, has a list of organizations that they can invite when they want to invent a new law for opinions. And we are one of the organizations that are listed there. And we are the only ones that are mentioned as the organization for debt advice. And that's something that we found very important, that you not only work together in networks like the ECDN or other welfare structures, but also that you use the political system to give your opinion in the process. And as Clemens just said, it's important that you not only wait to be asked, but that you say what you find is important from the practitioner's point of view. So we are very present in many political aspects and in the media as well right now, since Corona or COVID and the energy crisis and the war in Ukraine. There have been many questions on how private financial situations are doing right now and what happens in debt advice. But very often that is because we say, hey, something happens here for over-indebted people. Which brings us to the next slide. What our role as an umbrella organization is in the debt consultation procedure or in the regulatory procedure. As I said, it's not that we as an umbrella organization are part of the regulatory process. Debt advice in Germany is the topic, or especially financing debt advice, is a topic of the municipalities. So there's many, many different ways of financing and many, many different ways how the debt advice centers are able to form their regulatory procedure. What we can do as an umbrella organization is that we write down standards or that we give suggestions in our magazine. As I said, we launch the magazine 4 times a year. And in this magazine, that's where we say, hey, there's this new scientific research on this and this law. And that's how you could give advice to your clients. And very often that is how it becomes a standard. So we try to set standards, but it's not like we are the official, we have the official mandate to give advice to our debt advice centers. As you know, in Germany, we have not only the municipalities, which are the small area, but we also have the 16 states. And in some of the 16 states, we have little umbrella organizations, statewide or umbrella organizations for debt advisors. And we try to bring them together and to get the 16 states to talk to each other about best practice and legal standards and everything. But that's something where Germany is, in my point of view, not at its best when it comes to debt advice, because we do take many tasks in the debt advice consultation process, but the umbrella organization is neither financed nor has it the mandate. Very often it's the welfare organizations that say, in our debt advice centers, for example, the Caritas welfare debt advice centers, this is the standard how you work. But then if there is the Red Cross, they say, we have a Red Cross standard ourselves, how we do debt advice with our clients. And that can be different to the Caritas standard. So what we try to do as an umbrella organization on nationwide level is that we try to bring them together and that we try to agree. And very often that works, that we find out we want certain standards to be fulfilled. And very often it's important, we find, to have one opinion that we spread outside the field. But that's something that we're not very good at, which is also because there's all the different interests between welfare organizations and state debt advice umbrella organizations and nationwide organization. And so that's not where we are at our best. And that's where I think the ISB is a lot better. Clemens.
Okay. So the umbrella organization has an important role to play when a new debt counselor starts his or her job. We organize the basic training to become a debt counselor. A broad spectrum of theoretical and practical knowledge is imparted in 12 training days. This training follows a curriculum that was developed together by all debt counseling centers, and that is also continuously developed and improved. The lecturers are experienced practitioners from the field of debt counseling, and there is also a part that is designed by court officials. Legal aspects play a role as well as counseling methods. Financial education, data protection, and quality management are also discussed. The big advantage is that all new debt counselors go through this training, so we can be sure that they all have the same basis and work according to uniform criteria. We support the activities of debt counseling centers with our coordination and networking of activities, especially in the field of counseling. The working group of law plays a very important role. All debt counseling centers are represented in this working group, in personal meetings, in online meetings, via OneNote platform, and via email. The members share current problems, discuss cases, or work out legal and socio-political proposals. We are the representatives of the debt counseling centers in various committees of the Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Social Affairs. In this way, we help to shape the legal and social policy discussion and influence legislation. In this area, our voice from practice is very much appreciated. As I mentioned before, we play an important role in one part of the debt settlement procedure because we handle the repayments. This means that we receive money from the debtor and hand it out to the creditors. In return, we receive a fee that enables us to run our company as a social business. So that's the next question, number 6. Which topics is our umbrella organization dealing with right now? The most frequently mentioned cause of over-indebtedness in Austria is unemployment or reduction in income. The proportion of unemployment people in the debt counseling centers is 5 times higher than in the population as a whole. This is not surprising since unemployment reduces income to 55% of the original income. Only very few people are able to cope with such a financial shock without serious financial problems. We demand, therefore, that the net replacement rate of unemployment benefits must be raised to 70% in order to avoid financial problems and debt problems. The second point, the subsistence minimum is too low. The reference rate no longer guarantees a secure existence, also due to inflation. The current subsistence minimum for a single person is at 1,110 euros per month. This is very far below the poverty line of about 1,400 euros in Austria. Every person who has wage attachments is in private bankruptcy or receives a minimum pension, thus lives below the poverty line, or in other words, is affected by state-imposed poverty. So the subsistence minimum must be at least at the poverty line. Currently, there is, on the basis of an EU directive, the possibility of debt relief through private bankruptcy within 3 years. Unfortunately, in Austria, this regulation is limited until 2026, and an extension of the bankruptcy period for private individuals is to be expected. I am sure that it is not in the interest of the state, the society, and the economy to make the bankruptcy rules for private individuals stricter again, in a time when we are dealing with the social and the economic crisis. We therefore demand that debt relief for private individuals must remain permanently possible within 3 years. For many, the inflation is a frightening situation. If, in addition to the constantly rising expenses, repayments for debts are necessary, it will become impossible for many to meet the expenses due. More and more people are in danger of slipping from regulated debt into unregulated over-indebtedness. In this context, we demand that the state must ensure that the state benefits, for example, unemployment benefits or social transfer benefits, are adjusted to inflation so that incomes are sustainably increased. On the expenditure side, the state must intervene in a guiding way when costs rise and people's livelihoods are threatened. Examples would be a rent cap or an electricity cost break. While one-off supports create a temporary relief, they are not suitable for building a stable budget. As we all know, a stable budget is an essential basis for debt settlement. Debt and poverty often go hand in hand. People with debts live below the poverty line because the subsistence minimum is set below this line, as I mentioned before. It is therefore obvious that debt counseling centers are also involved in the fight against poverty. According to the current surveys, every 5th person in Austria is affected by poverty. Child poverty requires special attention. About 350,000 children and young people are affected by poverty in Austria. What kind of society are we if we leave 350,000 children and young people in poverty? We need effective measures against poverty and especially against child poverty. Affordable concepts are available. It is not only inhumane and unsocial, but also economic nonsense to destroy potential and leave children without prospects. This is feasible, affordable, and has no alternative. So Ines, you are next.
Yes, but we're one slide too far. We're still answering the question, what topics are on our list today? And whereas you mentioned many big political topics, we are right now also dealing with topics concerning our umbrella organization in itself and the internals. So one very important topic for us and for our debt advice centers is the standard that you mentioned for new debt advisors. So the standard how to train new debt advisors is one of the topics that we worked at last year. And we made a suggestion and we said these are the fields that somebody should be trained at when becoming a new debt advisor in Germany. But so far, it's not mandatory. It's still something that you can do. So right now everyone can say I'm a debt advisor in Germany, and nobody can say that's not true. Everyone's able to to take that name. So that is one big topic, to set a standard for the training of new debt advisors. And at the same time, for the recruitment of new workers and for the standards of the workers that are in the field right now. The paying for debt advisors is not very well, which is also because we say we don't want clients to pay. We want clients to have a free service, but at the same time, that means that the state always says, yes, but it's all tax money, so you can only take, you cannot take as much money, and it has to be small loans for the debt advisors. And that's one big field, one big topic that we're working at right now is recruitment of skilled workers and the training of new workers. Another topic that we are working on right now is the seizure of government aid or the government money. As I mentioned before, when COVID came up, there were many fundings from the state to the people living in Germany. For example, you could get a funding of like 300 euros for your energy bill. And nobody thought about the people, the over-indebted people. So basically, the debtors took the money from the bank account right away. And that happened to other government aid as well. So right now, we're trying to give advice to the government on how they can spend the money, that it actually gets to the clients and that not some debtor takes it from them. That's another big topic that we're talking about. We're also talking about the EU Consumer Credit Directive that Dieter mentioned before. And about how to cope with the high energy prices and the raising numbers of people asking for debt advice. We asked in the debt advice companies throughout Germany. As I said, it's 1,400 debt advice centers in Germany, approximately. And 2/3 of them said that the numbers rise and that they have more clients asking for help. And already there's waiting lists for up to 9 or 10 months. So right now in Germany, the situation is that you have lots of clients that are over-indebted, that are afraid that they might lose their flat or that they might not be able to pay their bill, or all the topics that that Clemens mentioned as well, of small money for children. I'm a bit confused, sorry, with the slides, but they're gone now. I just keep on talking like this. Yes, and so what we're trying to address is in public that there is a big gap between the need for professional debt advice and the actual offer of free, charge-free, good quality debt advice. So that's the 4 topics that we focus on right now. And what we always feel as a problem for us as an umbrella organization is that our clients, our debt advisors as well, forget how powerful their special knowledge is. Very often our debt advisors argue and say, yes, but it's poverty and it's capitalism and it's all like our economic system or this and that and that. And very often we are the ones that have to tell them, Yes, but what we are good at and what we can say is what happens to the 6 million over-indebted people in Germany, and why is it very much important for the over-indebted people. Very often there is the danger of having these big political topics and forgetting yourself, and I myself have the same problem, forgetting that over-indebtedness is addressed not enough, but it's a big problem. And very often we are the ones that have to address over-indebtedness as a specific problem, as an own topic, as an own field of work that you have to take seriously. And that brings us to the last slide and last question. No, that one before, that number 7. Yes, that one. What we think are the success factors for a good umbrella organization. We, from our experience in Germany, would say that there is a lot you can underestimate. You can underestimate your skills as professionalists in your field. You can underestimate the power of the welfare organizations that are already involved. If in your country, the welfare organizations offer debt advice, they have very good connections and networks to the political system. Use it. Take it as an advantage and use it as your way to address the topics and the fields of debt advice. What we think is a big success factor is that we always argue as practitioners. Most of us have worked in the field. I was a debt advisor myself. Clemens was a debt advisor himself for a long time. We have the experience. We know how it works in the debt advice centers, and we are in exchange with the debt advisors that are still in the field. And we find it very, very important to argue and to always use your practical experience when you talk to media, when you talk to politics, and when you have a clear picture of the clients in your head when you answer questions of press representatives, for example. Which is the third success factor. The third success factor is press and media. Take time to answer press and media questions and give interviews. There's always people in the field that are very good at. You don't always have to do it yourself as an umbrella organization. You have all the debt advisors in your country, and support them, give them media training, whatever, give them good statements, good standards, give them the material to answer the media questions as well. Because for us, it was very, very helpful. When we had political topics, it was always very helpful if it was in the media before, if we could address the topic in the media and if we could use it. Also, we found it very important to talk to politicians themselves and not only to the government. So yes, the politicians, that's a high standard because they change every year. Not every year, but every 4 years in Germany. And you have to do it over and over again. But it's important to talk to the politicians as well. And if, again, you as the umbrella organization cannot do it yourself, get your members, get your debt advisors to do so, and support them in their opinion, in their willingness, use their capacities. And one last thing is, never underestimate the time it takes to work in a professional standard. So rather take one topic as your goal, like say we want an insolvency law, than saying, oh, we have all these topics that we want to address as an umbrella organization. Rather take one goal and put your time there instead of trying to answer everything, because then it will not work. And it takes time to do stuff professionally, and therefore, it will be a long way. It will be a long way to form an umbrella organization. It will be a long way to be heard. It will take a lot of time to be heard. And that's, from our experience, what's important. And to always use the networks that you have and that your members and your debt advisors bring. Is it the same success factors for you, Clemens?
Nearly, yeah. I heard a few sentences which I will double in my next words. So I think the number one success factor is that we are allowed to coordinate and represent all state-recognized debt counseling centers, all staff working there, and all their activities. This makes us a clear and single point of contact in public towards the politics and in expert circles. At the same time, this good connection to the debt counseling centers enables us to be close to the practice and to understand and represent the concerns of those affected. Because of our profits in the field of bankruptcy management, we are not entirely dependent on state subsidies. This makes us more flexible and effective because we can make many of our decisions without influence from outside. It's important for us to maintain good contacts and to have a sustainable network where we can express our opinions. As the umbrella organization, we have a clear mandate from all debt counseling centers. It's important for us to maintain contacts not only with the administration, but also with politicians, because this is where the final decisions are made. It's important to have professional press work and a lot of media competence, ongoing media monitoring, press releases, press conferences, websites, and presence in social media channels are important elements here. These activities should be combined with a presence in various events where the issues of debt and poverty are made visible by us. It's therefore absolutely necessary that an umbrella organization is equipped with sufficient financial and human resources if it wants to represent the issue in a successful and appropriate way. Thank you very much.
And now we have some time to discuss. Let's talk.
Yeah, thank you very much, Clemens and Ines, for this brilliant presentation and this great choreography.